the stories glow. Palm lantern ignite, where the tales will flow. Whispers of the night, under moonlit skies. Every word so bright, in your mind it lies.
Pascal was deep in thought. He missed his father dearly. Since losing his mother 5 years ago, his father had been his rock. As an only child, Pascal was very close to his parents. His father, a postmaster, had devoted all his resources to putting Pascal through medical school. His mother, a nurse, had introduced him to the medical world, and Pascal had been fascinated by the way she cared for the sick. She was also a supportive wife to his father. Pascal's parents had been married for 40 years and struggled to have children, but they were blessed with Pascal after 10 years of waiting. Now 35 years old, Pascal had neither a wife nor children of his own. He had moved from the suburbs with his father in the countryside before his father's passing. Pascal had asked his father to join him on his 100-acre property in Fort Worth, Dallas, but his father had refused. He wanted to stay close to the memories of his wife in the home they had shared before she died. Pascal had no choice but to move to Argyle, driving 45 minutes to an hour each day to and from work. 1 month after his father's passing, Pascal was still living in their family home. He had taken 1 week off, as his doctor advised, after collapsing at work from overexertion. He had been working too hard to avoid confronting his grief. He knew, however, that his medical center was in good hands, as he had the best team. One cool September evening, Pascal was lying on the couch, staring up at the ceiling when his phone rang. He answered and heard a woman's voice. It reminded him of his mother's, silky and gentle. The question from the caller jolted him out of his thoughts. "Am I connected to Paul from Western Insurance?" the caller asked. "Wrong number. This is Pascal," he replied. "I'm sorry. I must have mixed up a number or two," she said. "It's no problem," Pascal responded, hesitating to end the call. Dorothy, on the other end, could hear the sadness in Pascal's voice. Being a good Christian, she was always willing to offer help and spread love. "Mr. Pascal, I don't mean to pry, but is everything okay? I can hear the sadness in your voice." Pascal was about to give the response, "I'm fine, thank you." But he stopped himself and decided to be truthful. "I'm not fine, Miss Dorothy," she helped him. "Thank you," Pascal replied and continued. "I lost my father a month ago, and don't know what to do with myself," he said, laughing awkwardly. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Dorothy said empathetically. "Do you want to talk about your father? I bet he was a great dad to you," she said, her silky voice drawing Pascal in. Dorothy and Pascal ended up talking on the phone for more than 2 hours, and they agreed to meet for coffee the next day, which happened to be Sunday. That night, Pascal couldn't stop thinking about Dorothy. On the other hand, Dorothy was concerned about Pascal and prayed for him that night. The next evening, Pascal arrived at the coffee shop, dressed in brown pants and a blue shirt, waiting for Dorothy. For the first time in a week, he had shaved and cleaned up nicely. Dorothy, coming straight from church, wore a lovely blue dress. She was 5 feet 11 inches, with curves in all the right places. As soon as Dorothy walked into the shop, she saw a tall, handsome man sitting by himself. Their eyes met, and they smiled knowingly. Dorothy walked up to Pascal, and they exchanged pleasantries. Pascal couldn't take his eyes off her. "She's a damn beautiful woman," he thought to himself. Dorothy felt shy under Pascal's gaze. They sat over 2 cups of coffee and chatted for hours. Pascal learned that Dorothy had lost her mother the previous year and her father before she was born. Just like him, she was an orphan and the only child of her parents. They found common ground in their shared experiences. From their conversation, Pascal could tell that Dorothy was a religious woman, much like his mother. He could also tell that she was a genuine person with a good heart. "Why haven't I seen you around? You literally live a block from me," Dorothy asked. "I guess you're a busy lady." "Those high schoolers must keep you on your feet all day," Pascal said, teasing her. "You're so right. That's what I get for being a high school history teacher." Dorothy laughed. They both relaxed, enjoying each other's company as if they had known each other for years. "What do you do for work?" Dorothy asked. Pascal hesitated. It wasn't that he didn't trust Dorothy, but he never wanted his financial status to interfere with what he hoped would be a sweet friendship or something more. He decided to play it safe. "I work at Safe Haven Medical Center," he replied. "Wow, Safe Haven is one of the biggest medical centers in Texas," Dorothy said. "My mother received the best care at the Argyle branch before she passed. The doctors were amazing." "Do you work there as a doctor?" she asked innocently. "Oh no, one needs a brain to be a doctor," Pascal joked. "I work as a janitor," he lied, feeling a pang of sadness as he did so, but he felt he had no choice. Since starting his chain of hospitals, finding genuine love has been difficult. That was the price he paid for not dating during college and med school. He had meaningful friendships with people who didn't know. He owned Safe Haven Medical Center. But now that most people knew, many women made advances toward him, seeking wealth rather than love. His friends often talked about how privileged he was, but they never understood how lonely he felt. At 35, he longed for a family of his own. Now that fate had brought Dorothy into his life, he wasn't about to mess things up. Dorothy was embarrassed for assuming he was a doctor. She apologized repeatedly, saying he looked so put together that she had just assumed. Pascal told her that his mother had been a great believer in appearances, and he had lived by that belief all his life. One thing that intrigued Pascal about Dorothy was that his revelation about being a janitor didn't change how sweet she was toward him. They knew they wanted to keep seeing each other, and so their relationship began to blossom. When Pascal's leave ended, he returned to work but continued commuting from Argyle. He would always visit Dorothy at her place. They spent Thanksgiving night together. Dorothy couldn't visit Pascal at his home because he always made excuses about how busy he was. Pascal was simply trying not to get caught in his lie about being a janitor. When Dorothy complained about it, Pascal finally agreed. They decided to spend Christmas at his place. Before Dorothy's arrival, Pascal cleaned up the family house, removing any evidence that might reveal his job as a doctor or the owner of Safe Haven. He also went through family photos, albums, and removed any incriminating pictures. He placed candles with Dorothy's favorite fragrances, jasmine and cherry blossom, around the house. Dorothy had been very kind to him, going out of her way to make his favorite foods. She loved cooking, and whenever Pascal bought her nice gifts, she would always tell him to save money for his dreams. He had told her he wanted to start his own cleaning company. Dorothy was all smiles when she entered the house. She appreciated Pascal's efforts to make her comfortable. Maybe it was the yoga, but Dorothy radiated a peaceful presence that made him long for her company every day. They hugged as if they hadn't seen each other in months, even though it had only been 2 days. Pascal kissed her like his life depended on it. "Woman, you set my body on fire," Pascal muttered under his breath. He couldn't wait to get her on his bed and make passionate love to her, but he respected her wish to wait until marriage. She had a strong influence on him. He read his Bible more often now and attended church every Sunday. "You don't make it easy, Pascal. You're my biggest temptation," she said, gently pulling away from his embrace. Pascal invited her to the dining table and served the food he had managed to cook. He wasn't a great cook, but Dorothy appreciated his effort, even though the food wasn't particularly good. They both went Christmas shopping together. Dorothy bought him a nice shirt. "Come on, Dorothy. You don't have to," he protested lightly. "You spoil me too. Let me do something nice for you. A good man deserves pampering too," she said. When they returned home around 3 p.m., they were exhausted. Dorothy quickly fixed something for them to eat with Pascal's help. She teased him about how bad a cook he was, but appreciated his effort. After eating, they showered and settled on the couch to watch a movie. Pascal fell asleep before the movie ended. He had been busy all day cleaning the house for Dorothy, and he still had to work that night. When the movie ended, Dorothy woke Pascal and guided him to the bedroom. They both slept soundly. Pascal woke up around 9 p.m. and found himself watching Dorothy sleep peacefully. He admired her and couldn't believe how lucky he was to find a treasure like her in a chaotic world. He gently covered her with a duvet, and she snuggled. She opened her eyes and saw him gazing at her. "Mr. Pascal, you're awake. It's hard to sleep when there's a princess in my bed," he teased. She laughed, feeling a little shy. "Is everything okay, darling?" she asked. "Yes, everything is fine. I love you, Dorothy," he said, planting a kiss on her forehead. "I love you too," she replied. "Sleep well, darling," Pascal said as he left the room. Dorothy went back to sleep. Pascal got dressed and left for work. The next day was Christmas. Pascal returned home at 8 a.m. Dorothy was making breakfast. She was a child of an African immigrant from Kenya. She prepared ugali cake, a type of Kenyan muffin, and chai tea. This was a tradition in her home before her mother passed away. A tradition she had skipped last Christmas because she was in mourning. Now that love had found her, she was ready to share everything with Pascal. Pascal was welcomed by the aroma of Dorothy's baking, and he loved it. He met her in the kitchen and hugged her tightly. She smiled and said, "I'm making a Kenyan breakfast for you." As a Black American, Pascal's mother had always made soul food for them. He was eager to try something from Kenya. Dorothy ran a warm bath for him, and after he had freshened up, they sat down to breakfast together. They exchanged secret gifts afterward. Pascal had gotten her the kitchen mixer she had always wanted, along with her favorite perfume. Dorothy, in turn, gifted him a nice wristwatch, as his old one had broken. As part of Dorothy's family tradition, they said a few words of prayer together. Pascal then brought out photo albums, a Christmas tradition from his family. Dorothy flipped through pictures of Pascal as a baby and saw his parents. Then it hit her. Pascal's mother was the angel who had saved her life 18 years ago when she was just 13. How could she ever forget? She remembered when she had stolen a pair of shoes from an outlet store. It was prom season, and her mother couldn't afford to buy her new shoes because she was saving for her real estate license. Fearing the bullies at school, Dorothy had decided to steal the shoes. She had always been a good child, and this was her first attempt at stealing. Pascal's mother had seen her and gently held her hands. "My child, do you think a pair of shoes is worth your future?" she asked her calmly. Dorothy broke down and explained how she was bullied in school because her mother couldn't afford a decent pair of shoes for her. She told Pascal's mother that she wanted a nice pair of shoes for prom to avoid the bullies. What was amazing was that Pascal's mother didn't judge her. Instead, she took Dorothy out to a restaurant, bought her food, and talked to her. She advised Dorothy to never worry about what others thought, telling her it would help her live a richer life. She introduced her to Jesus Christ, and from that day forward, Dorothy never looked back. Pascal's mother even bought her a nice pair of shoes, which she wore to prom. But the lesson she learned from Pascal's mom was far more valuable than any pair of shoes. It became a guiding light in her life. Dorothy had never seen Pascal's mother again. She searched and searched but never found her. She only appeared in her dreams. The night before, Dorothy mistakenly dialed Pascal's number. Now, Dorothy realized it was Pascal's mother who had brought them together. She told Pascal everything about her encounter with his mother, her voice trembling with emotion as she cried. Pascal held her close and thanked his mother for still looking out for him even in death, for bringing Dorothy into his life. Pascal and Dorothy had never been lucky in love. They were both the only child of their parents, with few friends. They had each given up on love. They never imagined that fate would bring them together. Pascal was thrilled that Dorothy had encountered his mother even before they met. After that Christmas, their bond grew stronger. and they became inseparable. But soon after, Pascal fell ill and was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Dorothy was by his side through it all. She was unaware that Pascal was the owner of Safe Haven Medical Center. She offered to pay his hospital bills so he could save his money for his business. He was grateful and asked her, "Where did you get all the money from? I know high school teachers don't get paid that much. My mother left me a big inheritance. Her real estate business is thriving, and I own 30% of the shares. I live in Argyle because it's peaceful, and most people don't know me here. Plus, I get to do the job I love so much," she explained. "You are an interesting lady, my dear Dorothy," Pascal replied, smiling. Dorothy held his hand as he lay in the hospital bed. She was surprised to see Pascal receiving preferential treatment from the doctors, nurses, and staff at Safe Haven. They treated him with the utmost respect. Susan, a doctor, walked up to them and eyed Dorothy coldly. She was all over Pascal, attending to his every need. When Susan left, Dorothy asked, "Is it just me, or am I imagining things? Dr. Susan doesn't seem particularly fond of me." "Oh, Susan. Ignore her. I guess she was just surprised to see a lady around me," Pascal replied weakly. "Oh, really? But why is everyone treating you like royalty? One of the doctors even called you boss," Dorothy inquired, raising an eyebrow. "Come here," Pascal said, gently pulling her closer. "I think it's time I tell you the truth." "The truth?" Dorothy's eyes widened. "Relax," Pascal said, holding her hands. "I lied about my job. I'm not a janitor. I'm a medical doctor and the owner of Safe Haven Medical Center." "What?" she asked, clearly shocked. "I didn't mean to. I haven't been lucky in relationships in the past. Most of the women I dated were only after my money, not love. I wanted to try something different with you." "I don't blame you," she said, her voice softening. "I've had my fair share of deceitful relationships too. My last boyfriend almost scammed me out of $1 million, but God saved me. That's why I moved to the countryside." "Oh, I'm so sorry that happened to you." "Thank you for not being mad at me," Pascal said with a sigh of relief. "You're too cute for me to stay mad at," she teased, gently nudging him. "Please get well soon. I miss the bubbly you." She prayed for him, and he was wheeled into the operating room for his brain surgery. The surgery was successful, and everyone was relieved. Pascal was a good boss, and everyone loved him. He introduced Dorothy to everyone as his lady. Susan, however, was visibly angry and stormed off. Pascal ignored her, focusing instead on thanking everyone for their hard work. Pascal and Dorothy returned to his home in Fort Worth. Dorothy was amazed at how grand and beautiful his house was. She took a leave from school to nurse Pascal back to health. One morning, Dorothy woke up to an empty bed. Since they had returned from the hospital, Dorothy had always been the first to wake up, allowing Pascal to rest and recuperate. She was surprised to find the bed empty. She found Pascal in the living room, on his knees, holding a ring. "Dorothy, since you came into my life, you've given it meaning. I've found peace, love, and a true friendship with you. Please do me the honor of being my wife," Pascal said, his voice filled with emotion. With tears in her eyes, Dorothy said a heartfelt yes to the love of her life. They officially got engaged in March. She took him to her mother's real estate company, showing him their properties around Texas. Likewise, Pascal took Dorothy on a tour of his chain of hospitals across Texas. They planned a simple wedding ceremony in September, the same month she had accidentally dialed his number. Dorothy returned to her home in Argyle and resumed school. In early June, just 3 months before their wedding, Dorothy was at school, finishing up the day and preparing for the summer break, when she received several images from an unknown number.
Whispers of the night under moonlit skies. Every word so bright, in your mind it lies. Lantern light guides you through the night. Every tale in sight makes your heart ignite. Dreams begin to stir as the stories start. Every twist and turn paints a world